Okay, let's get right into it. Being canceled doesn't exist because your fans stay your fans, right? If there's people that back you, they're going to back you. Cancel culture and all that is for people that don't back you already. So, as far as you not wanting to get started because what you think you're going to do might ruffle too many feathers, well, guess what? That's not a thing. People always say it, and a lot of people will. Well, I've been canceled. I've been canceled. Well, then why can I hear you saying you've been canceled? You haven't been canceled, okay? That's not the way that this world works. People want it to be, but it's not. All right. As far as art goes, there's no have to. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. It's all personal. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to have the best equipment or any of that. People always like to say, "Well, you can't do this, without that." Yeah, you can, and people do. Right? You don't need to spend a bunch of money or anything else. You don't have to do things a certain way. You don't have to do things the way that I want to see them done or whatever because that's just opinion, right? It can be done however you want to do it. You can draw stick figures, you can draw super detailed, you can draw something in between. It doesn't matter. You can write sleeves, you can write something that tries to change the world. And by the way, while we're on the when you change the world, you won't change it for the better, okay? Everyone likes to think, I'm gonna write this thing or draw this thing or whatever, and it's gonna change the world for the better. No, it's not gonna happen. That's never been the case. It's never gonna be the case. Period. You can change the world for the worse because that's what people are more able to grab onto and act on. And the reason I say this is there's a rapper named Mike Jennings from Toledo, Ohio. Okay, he said that there were no Bloods, no Crips, no anything like that until Menace to Society hit, right? And honestly, I can say the same for Michigan, right? So stuff like that can spread, but as far as changing the world for the better, it hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. It's not possible of happening. Period. The best you can hope for is a small point in time. That's it. Remember when everyone was paying it forward due to some stupid movie? I forget what movie it was. Everybody was paying it forward, paying it forward, paying it forward, talking about paying it forward. Where's that now? Nobody talks about it. Not like that, all right? So let's just face that, all right? You aren't going to like the stuff you make. You're going to be too close to it. At some point, you might be okay with it. Maybe you'll be okay with it right away, but chances are you aren't going to be. And that's because you're going to see what you could do better. You can see different choices you could have made, maybe should have made in your opinion, this, that, and the other. So the creation part is for you, and that's it. If you put it out or anything else, then it becomes for other people. If you decide not to put it out, you can burn it, you can whatever you want with it. You don't have to put it out to everybody, okay? You do not need a company backing, period. I don't care if you're making movies, I don't care if you're drawing, I don't care if you're writing a book. You don't need that anymore. Back in the day, you did. Now there's print on demand and everything else. You do not need a publisher. You do not need a film company. You don't need any of that shit. Anyone that tells you that is because they either like the old way, think you need the old way, just aren't used to people gambling on themselves. And a lot of times the gambling is just a little bit of time and effort, and it's not actual money, especially when you get started. Now, if you're sculpting or something like that, you need to buy the clay, but if you're watching me on a phone, guess what? You have everything you need to be able to shoot something, whether it's a movie or something like this. So, yeah. Whatever you make doesn't have to be beautiful, period. People want to make these things that look awesome or read, you know, awesomely and all that, but you don't need to make it like that. Not everything costs for it, first of all. And besides that, not everyone can reach that or make that happen, period. So you might think, well, I can make this happen, I can make that happen. Nope. I'm not saying that you can't, but I'm saying you don't need to. Everything calls for its own thing, and honestly, the mess ups and everything else is what make it look human and make it feel like it was made by a human, right? And that's part of what everyone's looking for. So as far as getting word out about your stuff, you do not have to pay for advertising. Period. People say, well, I spent this much on advertising, I spent that much on advertising. You don't have to. All you have to do, honestly, is set up a channel on here, which is super simple. If you have the app, just press the plus button, You know, let you put a video up. You can even record a short right there, right? So companies and stuff do it all the time. They give advice and everything else, and then they still offer products or whatever else. So you don't even have to do that. You can straight up advertise. You don't have to spend any money. All it is when you put a video on here, use as little tags as possible. I usually use only 2. That's it for any video I do. So, all right. There are not any criteria you have to meet to make something, period. So anyone, well, it has to be this, it has to be that. No, that's for classes or assignments. That's it. Besides that, no, those don't exist. People always think, well, you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. No, you don't. You can do it however you want, however you see fit, however you like to do it. Period. We all get in our own way. That's just all there is to it. You know, we are the voice in our head, so you can't do it, this, that, the other thing. It's not gonna be good. Well, guess what? It doesn't need to be good. Well, nobody's going to see it. Fine. Your point? Well, nobody's going to remember it. Fine. Your point? Nobody's going to remember what you do, so it's just practice, even if you put it out. That means no one's going to talk good or bad about it. You know what I'm saying? So, whatever voices you have in your head of, well, it's not worth the time, it's not worth the effort, it's not worth this, it's not worth that. I don't have the gear, I don't have the know-how. Well, guess what? When I started doing anything I've been doing, I didn't have know-how either at all. None. Zero. All right. And that's where it always starts from. You go to a class, which I haven't went to a class for what I do, okay? Besides guitar class way back in the day, like 20 something years ago. But what I'm getting at is you don't need any of that. You don't need to know what you're doing. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need any of that shit, especially when you start doing art. I don't care if it's drawing. I don't care if it's playing an instrument. When I started doing stand up, I didn't know what I was doing. I just didn't. I don't do stand up anymore, but I did it for 6 years, right? And there's a lot of people that had as little knowledge as I did years in, as I did that had longer time in. So you don't need to know shit. Um, the only thing that people can really tell you about is how to do the technical stuff, right? Because as far as choices and all that, what you choose to do, nobody can tell you or really direct you on that. It's your artistic stuff. So the reason I say this is I've been a musician off and on, 24 years. I've been in bands where I wrote stuff and then they have practice without me. They rewrite everything. They put me on bass. Right. Used to happen back in the day, like 20 something years ago. Now, nobody remembers remembers those bands that I was in. But when I was in one and was able to play the way that I wanted to play, people still remember that stuff to this day. The reason is it stood out. It was something different. I brought my own thing. I wasn't trying to make whatever everyone else did. So people tried to tell me, well, this is the way it needs to sound. No, I've proven it doesn't. It can sound however it needs to sound. It needs to come from me or from you, from whoever, and that just is what it is. So as far as technical ability, that's all they can really speak on, because they can't speak on the creative aspect because it's your creative aspect. It's your creative vision, or whatever the hell you want to call it. I hate creative vision, but you get what I'm saying. There's more than one way to get shit done. People always say, well, this is the way to do this, this is the way to do that. No, this is one way to do this or that. That's it. Because it's not brain surgery or anything else. Really, what it is with artistic stuff, it's all up to you. You don't have to do it the exact way someone else does. You don't have to have the same approach someone else does. You don't have to do it for the same reason someone else does. Period. You don't have to look for the same end result, right? I know everyone looks for something different. When I make something, especially if I'm making a movie or something, I thought I was going to be more of a horror director. Nope. Nah. I've done more with the stuff that's unreleased. I've done more documentary type stuff. All of it has some humor to it and all that, because I can't help it. It's not that I necessarily always want it to be there, but there's no choice for me but to put it in, right? And for other people, it's not going to be the same thing. They are not Going to do the humor, they're going to do stuff more serious, and that's fine. That's great. There's nothing wrong with either way. But there's more than one way to approach things, more than one way to get things done. People used to say, well, for a production, you, especially of a movie or something, you need a makeup person and all that. Well, YouTube proved that wrong. Because they're walking up to people on the street. You think all those guys are wearing makeup? No. You think that everyone has makeup artists working on them? No. Okay? So that's just one example, but there's so many different. You don't need lighting guys and all that, depending on what you're doing. Just there's more than one way to get things done. And you don't need a lot of people to get anything done. I'm just telling you flat out from my experience. As far as stories go, there's nothing too crazy. As far as music goes, too, there's nothing too crazy. Now, I'm not an ICP fan, honestly, but they talk about murdering people all the time with hatchets and stuff like that. They have for a long time. They're from my basic area, Southeast Michigan. So I've been hearing about these guys since they got started, right? It's just the truth of the matter. But there's plenty of other stuff out there. Criminally Insane, which is about a woman that has an eating problem that gets out of prison and still has an eating problem and kills her family so she can eat as much as she wants. I know that's a messed up story. And then there's Bad Boy Bubby, which deals with incest, the killing of a cat, murders, all kinds of crap. You get what I'm saying? So, gonna pick that up real quick. Yeah. All right. You can do whatever you want. People always say that you can't or that you shouldn't or whatever, but pro beach hockey was the thing in the 90s. I just saw part of a video about it the other day. There's little ramps, not where you could jump them, but where you could go up them and down them a little bit behind the goals and all that. And people probably said, well, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this and all that. Well, it was done. It may have not lasted long, but it was done, right? So as far as anything you want to do, you can do it, right? Especially when it comes to artistic stuff. There is, especially nowadays, all right, there's not all the guardrails and stuff in the way that there used to be. There isn't the barrier to entry that there used to be. All right, to get a video out to as many people as I do now, back in the day, I would have had to tell people, I would have probably had to rent ad space, I would have had to make hard copies, I would have had to get them to places, I would have had to get them possibly through some kind of distribution channel, everything else. Here, no. I make an account, that's it. Press plus to make one, or there's different ways I can do it because of how my setup is. Upload video. Using 2 tags, that's it. But the barrier to entry is non-existent anymore. And because of that, we get to see what everyone's own style and everything is. And it can make things a lot more interesting and a better chance to do something that someone else isn't doing, to be able to stick out a little bit if you choose to, or at least see what you want to see done. All right. You can mix up as weird as you want. Look at SCTV from back in the day. It was from Canada. It stood for Second City TV, which was a sketch comedy group based out of, I think the main one was Chicago, but they had it in Canada and other places too. And with whatever you want to do, there's usually a workaround. Now, there's a comic that is named Arn from back in the day, and Arn looked a lot like a certain duck from Disney. Okay? So, for a year, he changed the bill on it, right? Made it Arn X. After that year, he decided, okay, this one's going to go out, buy a beak, that's a mask. It's going to have this little thin line holding it on, like a rubber band or something, right? And in some of the pictures, you can see that. So, got around it, and it looks exactly like that duck. But guess what? It doesn't matter, right? They're always around. You just got to think for a minute. You know what I'm saying? And because it was right there, just that one little thin line, you changed your name back, and it became, they didn't really change in between, but it kept being exactly what it was. Just with the original design. Just because other people are doing stuff doesn't mean you have to. And if you do exactly what everyone else does, you're not going to stand out. There's so many people that make videos and all that just prove this to me on a daily basis. They all speak in the exact same way, in the exact same tone, in the exact same cadence and meter. And you can interchange any of them, and it doesn't matter whatsoever. The um, bassness or the highness of their voice changes. That's it. There's nothing else. So, with that, if anyone else makes a video, it's going to stand out because it's not going to be that. And I think that's part of the reason that some of the people like what I do here, but that is what it is. All right. All right. It's impossible to appeal to everybody. And there's a movie that came out, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I forget how long. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And this proves it. I think that movie's complete and utter dog shit. There's nothing redeemable about that movie to me. Zero. The casting, the acting, even though I like the actors in it, the actresses, I should say, and all that, but I don't like them in that movie. I don't like I like Michelle Yeoh. I can't stand her in this. And that's what I'm saying. You'll never be able to appeal to everybody. It's impossible. Okay? So you can try, but also the more people that you try to appeal to, the more watered down your shit's gonna be. Period. There's that's just all there is to it. If you do stuff live, your friends and family aren't gonna support you for the most part physically. They're not gonna show up because they get it for free. Okay? I know this with stand up 100%. Nobody can tell me different. I've lived it. I've seen it. I've seen it for other people. People only showed up for one person, and that's because they thought he was leaving town. Right? They thought he might be moving out for good. That's the time that you might get friends and family to show up to put a few bucks in your pocket. That's it. Otherwise, they're not coming. Period. Like I said, they get it for free. Now, if you do music, it's a little bit different, but plays, stuff like that, maybe, but still very, very unlikely. All right? And I know it's not something people like to hear, but it's something that is just the truth. All right? You don't have to go to art school or anything else for what it is you want to do. There's tutorials online, everything else, save your money. Do not take a class for stand up because all it is a public speaking class. Take a public speaking class. They'll teach you how to punch stuff up a little bit at, stand up class, but they can't teach you to be funny. Right? And the reason I know this is there's a guy out here, Bill Bouchard. I like him a lot. I respect him a lot. But I've seen people that he's taught to be funny. He's hilarious. The people that he's taught overall are not. Chili Chalice, may he rest in peace. I went to this class twice, right? It was supposed to be a class kind of the right thing. Guy used to write for the Tonight Show with Jay Leno and everything else. And I went and did one of his in Toledo. He never taught me anything. He just said, that one line that you used, or use it when you start every show. Okay, that was it. Besides that, he thought I was good and wanted to take me on the road, right? That's it. You're either funny or you're not, so those classes aren't going to teach you. But honestly, overall, you don't need classes anyway. You don't need classes on how to film, you don't need classes on lighting, you don't need classes on any of that shit because there's tutorials everywhere. Don't waste your money. All right? There's an audience for everything. Meaning no matter what it is that you make, there's going to be one other person on the face of the planet at least that wants to see things done the way that you want to see them done. Period. That's all there is to it. New stories do not exist. That's the reason people mash stuff together. People have been telling stories since the first time that they've been able to, whenever the hell that is, right? So every story's already been told. That's the reason that things are mashed up because human nature doesn't change. Technology does. That's really it. People are not going to think as bad of you as what you might think, period. I know a lot of people are scared because it's like the stuff that's in my head is to this, to that, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? But let's look at it this way. The writer for Fight Club happens to be a gay guy. When do you ever hear about him being gay? I got no problem with gay people, but what I'm saying is people that want to pick apart everything and give anyone a problem for anything, I don't hear any real problems about him in that way. Okay? Maybe there's some other stuff in his personal life. I don't know. But look at Hollywood back in the day with, and even music, people marrying family members, um, people being a stepdad to a kid, marrying them, all kinds of shit. And they might live in other countries or whatever else, but guess what? People are still seeing the movies and all that. And I'm not saying that for what they've done or anything else. So, you know, that's just the truth of the matter. I'm not saying up for anybody. All I'm getting at is whatever you've done, people aren't gonna worry about as much as what you think because what you do, what's the chance of it making national news or international news? Okay, there you go. Probably never gonna happen, right? You ain't got nothing to worry about. And if you think you're doing art and your stuff's gonna reach out like that and it's gonna make that kind of impact, maybe it will. Chances are not. You know, it can, but it's probably not gonna do what you think it's gonna do. And this is somebody that's done so much in my life that I know this to be fact. Okay, that basically goes that. You don't need to make something complex. I don't care if it's music. I don't care if it's drawing. I really don't care what it is. You don't need to. Um, Simpler is better, and you know, some people write crazy stories and everything else. But the way I see it is, there's a movie from back in the day called The Poison, which is about a woman and man that hate each other. You know, they're married, they hate each other. One of them kills the other one. Simple story, very simple. Great movie. Seen it twice. Haven't seen it for years. Can still remember the name. Can still remember the story to it. Would go back and watch it right now if I could get my hands on it that easy. Period. So, yeah, even with music, you don't need to write something insanely hard or whatever. Wesley Willis, guy from Chicago, had his mental issues, everything else, had a keyboard. In the beginning, I don't know if he ever learned to play okay, but I turned on the keyboard presets, he'd write some lyrics to it, he'd sing it. And he got signed to a label and everything else, toured around, even played Detroit and a bunch of other places, places, right? So that is what it is. People have their own approaches. You don't have to copy someone else's way of doing things. A lot of the art stuff can be done all by yourself, including shooting movies and all that. Most of mine I've shot alone. I'm planning to shoot some with other people coming up. A lot of art stuff can be done for free. I mean, with some stuff there's supplies or whatever, but with some stuff you already have it. And even if you want to get into animation and all that, if you have a phone, you can do it. If I have FlipaClip, that's how I've done some animation already. And even with the watermarks, there's a way to get around that where you find out what the height of the watermarks can be. You do not go uh, animate or draw anything under that. And then you go to one side of it. The right side, I'd say, find out where that is so you know where to crop to. That's it, right? People are looking for one of three things. It's either entertainment, right? Information, or connection. It's that simple. So they either want to be able to learn something, feel like you are similar to them or someone that they can listen to or come from a similar place. That's that connection thing. And then entertainment, that speaks for itself. People don't think about you nearly as much as what you think they do, and they aren't going to think about what you've made nearly as much as what you think. Period. Style is what you do wrong. This is with music and everything else, because if you do something perfect, there is no style to it. That just is what it is. people are always going to offer their opinions as fact, and that just is what it is because they want to see certain things, they do things in a certain way, they think that's the only way that you can do them, or only way you should do them because they've had success with them. But that's not the truth. You can do whatever you want, however you want, for whatever reason you want, right? People have their own taste, so there's a lot of people that are going to hate your shit, but there's a lot of people that are going to like it too. And I'm not making stuff for people that don't like my stuff. I'm making it for me. So if there's other people that have my sensibility at all, they're gonna like what I do. And why am I gonna waste time worrying about what people say when it was never made for them in mind? With them in mind, I mean, or for them in any way, shape, or form. It makes no sense to me. It's easy to stand out, just do anything different, a little bit different. It doesn't need to be super different. Look at what's that one? I can't remember the name of it. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff. There was one that I want to pull out, but I can't remember the name of it. Right? Oh, look at John Dies at the End. Okay, it's a sci-fi movie. It is a bit different, so it's not one that's just a little bit different, but it sticks out like a sore thumb. The story to it, the way it's told, the pacing, and everything else. And the premise is this guy takes something and it changes his life. It changes what he can see and everything else. So, and or look at Hobo with a Shotgun. It is a homeless guy that comes to town trying to make his life right, trying to make some money, and the town is just full of evil pricks. You know what I'm saying? And that can be enough. Even though there's a lot more to it than that. Old school means memorable because it's different than all the stuff that's being put out right now. That's the reason that you get somebody putting out something that feels like it's from 20 years ago and people clamor to it. It's not just nostalgia. It's the fact that it stands out because it's not what's being made now. Now, I don't care if you make something that's modern day that feels a little bit different. That's going to grab eyes, but this is as well. You know what I'm saying? People will only remember your stuff if it's really good or really bad. If it's normal or okay, then it gets lost in the mix because they don't think automatically, I want to see this again or experience this again, or I need to avoid this. So a lot of people make stuff that's forgettable. I did 3,100 videos on another channel within a year. 7 of those every day were movie recommendations. So I know what I'm talking about, okay? You don't need talent. You never have. And anyone can do this. There's no excuse anymore. Anybody can. There you go. Come on.